Welcome to Zen Mind Temple. Tonight, I'm not just sharing stories. I'm handing you the keys to silence the noise that's been keeping you up. 10 Zen Tailies. Each one a quiet revolution. Millions have let them dissolve their racing thoughts, melt away stress, and sink into sleep so deep it feels like coming home. What makes these different? They don't demand you empty your mind or be good at meditating. They work if you've never meditated a day in your life. If your thoughts are screaming right now. If every sleep trick you've tried has fizzled out, as the Buddha once said, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. In the next 3 hours, let that truth settle. Adjust your pillow. Let your body grow heavy against the bed like it's been waiting to rest all day. Take a deep breath with me now. And as you exhale, know, this is the first step of a journey that's been calling you, softly, all along. Let's begin. Imagine, if you will, a clearing at the edge of an ancient forest. The air here smells of damp earth and pine needles, sweet and grounding in the way only places untouched by hurry can be. Sunlight filters through a canopy of leaves, dappling the ground with patches of gold that shift slowly as the breeze stirs the branches. And at the center of this clearing stands a pine tree, old, gnarled, its trunk thick and weathered, its branches reaching out like arms that have embraced 100 winters and 100 summers. Locals call it the 100-year pine, though no one knows for certain how long it has stood here. Some say it was already a sturdy sapling when the first villagers settled in the valley below. Others whisper that it was here long before any human footprints marked the soil. What is certain is that it has seen more seasons than most people can fathom, and in its presence, time seems to stretch out, soft and unhurried. Like a cat napping in the sun. Nearby, there is a small stone bench, worn smooth by the passage of countless bodies sitting in quiet contemplation. It is here that an old man comes each afternoon, as he has done for the past 40 years. His name is Takashi, though the children in the village simply call him grandfather. And when they ask him why he spends so much time with the tree, he smiles and says, "It has much to teach me." Takashi is not a monk, nor a sage, nor any kind of wise man by worldly standards. He was a farmer all his life, tending to rice fields that sloped gently down to the river. His hands calloused from decades of planting and harvesting, his back bent slightly from years of stooping to gather crops. Now in his 80s, his steps are slow, his vision a little dim, and his hands tremble when he tries to hold small things. There are days when he looks at the young men in the village, strong, quick, their laughter loud as they lift heavy loads or race each other along the path, and feels a quiet ache, a sense that he has been left behind, that the world has moved on while he has stayed still. It is on one such day that he arrives at the clearing, his shoulders hunched, his breath coming in short, labored gasps. The ache is sharper than usual today. He watched his grandson, a boy of 16, run up the hill that morning, his legs flying, his energy boundless, and something in Takeshi had felt obsolete, as if he were a tool that had outlived its purpose. A worn-out shoe tossed aside when a new pair is bought. He sits down on the stone bench, his joints creaking softly, and closes his eyes. The forest around him is alive with sound, the chirp of a bird, the rustle of a squirrel in the underbrush, the distant call of a woodpecker, but his mind is elsewhere, tangled in thoughts of youth and age, of time slipping through his fingers. Like water. When he opens his eyes again, he looks up at the 100-year pine, really looks at it. He has seen it 1,000 times, but today, something is different. He notices the way its trunk twists and turns, not in a straight line, but in a path that seems to tell the story of every storm it has weathered, every wind that has pushed against it. He sees the scars on its bark, places where lightning has struck or branches have broken off, and yet there it stands, taller and stronger than ever. He thinks of the sapling. It must have been small, fragile, easily uprooted by a strong wind. It would have been green and supple then, its needles bright and new. But would it have been as beautiful as it is now? Would it have had the same presence, the same sense of quiet authority that comes from standing firm through a century of change? A breeze stirs, and a few pine needles drift down from the branches, landing softly on the ground beside him. Takeshi reaches down and picks one up, rolling it between his thumb and forefinger. It is dark green, slightly stiff, its edges a little rough. He thinks of the young pine needles, soft and bright, and realizes that neither is better than the young. They are simply different, each in its own season. He thinks of his own hands, how they have changed over the years. Once they were strong and dexterous, able to plant rice seedlings with precision, to lift heavy sacks of grain without a second thought. Now they are lined with wrinkles, spotted with age, their strength diminished. But these hands have held his children when they were babies, have wiped away tears, have planted seeds that grew into food to feed his family. They have built a life, stitch by stitch, day by day. Are they less valuable now because they move more slowly? A thought makes him smile, a soft, gentle smile that crinkles the corners of his eyes. He looks up at the pine tree again, and this time he sees not just a tree, but a mirror that shows him that age is not a loss, but a gain, that every year, every wrinkle, every gray hair is a thread in the tapestry of his life, a thread that adds depth and richness and beauty that could not be there otherwise. He thinks of the storms the tree has endured, how each one must have tested. It pushed it to its limits, and yet each storm also taught it to grow deeper roots, to stand more firmly in the soil. Is that not true of his own life? The hard times, the losses, the struggles, they have not weakened him, but made him stronger, wiser, more grounded in what matters. A butterfly flutters past, its wings a vibrant orange and black, and lands on a low branch of the pine tree. Takeshi watches it for a moment, its delicate wings moving quickly, as if in a hurry to get somewhere. But the tree does not hurry. It simply is rooted in the present moment, accepting whatever comes its way, sunshine or rain, calm or storm. He realizes that he has been in such a hurry lately, in a hurry to keep up, to not be left behind. But life, he sees now, is not a race. It is a journey, and each step, whether quick or slow, whether taken by a young man or an old one, has its own purpose, its own beauty. The sun begins to dip lower in the sky, painting the clouds with hues of pink and gold. Takeshi stands up slowly, his joints protesting a little, but there is a lightness in his chest that was not there before. He places a hand gently on the trunk of the 100-year pine, feeling its rough bark against his palm, its solidity beneath his fingers. "Thank you," he whispers, and he feels as if the tree hears him, as if it responds with a soft rustle of leaves. A gentle sigh of wind. He turns and walks back down the path to the village, his steps slow but steady, his mind quiet and clear. The ache of feeling left behind is still there, but it is softer now, like a distant memory. In its place is a sense of peace, a knowing that he is exactly where he is meant to be, that his age is not a burden, but a gift of time, of experience, of wisdom that only comes from living a long, full life. As he walks, he passes a group of children playing, their voices loud and joyful. One of them, a little girl with pigtails, runs up to him and tugs at his sleeve. "Grandfather, will you tell us a story tonight?" she asks, her eyes bright. Takeshi smiles. "Yes," he says, "I think I will." And as he continues down the path, he knows that the story he will tell is not just any story, but the story of a tree that taught an old man that age is not an end, but a new beginning, a beginning filled with the quiet beauty of a life well lived. The sun sets, and the forest grows quiet, the 100-year pine standing sentinel in the gathering darkness, its branches reaching up to the stars, as if in gratitude for all the years it has been given. And somewhere in the village below, an old man begins to tell a story, his voice soft and warm, carrying the wisdom of ages past and the promise of ages to come. The village where Takeshi lives nestles between two hills, its wooden houses clustered around a small square where a well has stood for generations. At one end of the square, beneath the shade of a large maple tree, there is a stone workshop. Low, sturdy building with a thatched roof and a wooden door that hangs slightly askew, its hinges creaking when pushed open. This is where Hiroshi works. The village stonecutter. Hiroshi is 70 now, though he looks older. His hair is white as snow, tied back in a loose knot at the nape of his neck, and his face is deeply lined, as if the years have carved their own stories into his skin. His hands are large and calloused, his fingers thick with the scars of a lifetime spent working with stone chips from flying shards, burns from hot metal tools, the rough edges of years of gripping chisels and hammers. Each morning, as the first light of dawn spills over the hills, Hiroshi walks to his workshop. He moves slowly, his gait a little uneven, the result of a fall from a scaffold decades ago that left his left leg slightly shorter than the right. But there is a steadiness to his steps, a quiet purpose that comes from years of following the same routine, day in and day out. Inside the workshop, the air is thick with the smell of stone dust and linseed oil, a scent that has lingered here for over 50 years. The walls are lined with shelves holding tools, chisels of various sizes, hammers, files, sandpaper, each one worn smooth by use, each one with its own place, its own purpose. In the center of the room, on a large wooden workbench, there is a block of marble, half carved into the shape of a Buddha. It is a commission for the new temple being built at the edge of the village, and Hiroshi has been working on it for over a year. This morning, as he enters the workshop, he finds a young man waiting for him. The man is in his 20s, his muscles defined beneath his simple cotton shirt, his hands large and strong. He introduces himself as Kenji, a stonecutter from a village in the next valley, and says he has come to learn from Hiroshi, to see how the master works. Hiroshi nods, a small, almost imperceptible gesture, and gestures for Kenji to come in. He does not speak much. Words have never come easily to him, and instead busies himself with preparing his tools, sharpening a chisel on a whetstone, the sound of metal against stone filling the quiet workshop. Kenji watches him, his eyes wide, with curiosity. "Master Hiroshi," he says, after a while, "I have heard that you are the finest stonecutter in the region. They say you can make stone breathe, that your statues have a life of their own." Hiroshi pauses, his chisel still against the whetstone. "Stone already breathes," he says, his voice low and gravelly, like the sound of rocks rubbing together. "It has its own life. I simply help it show itself." Kenji smiles, a little uncertain. "I have been cutting stone for 5 years," he says, "and I can carve a statue in a month. They say you take a year or more for a single piece. Isn't that slow?" Hiroshi looks up at him, his eyes clear and steady. They are old eyes, eyes that have seen much, but there is a brightness in them, a sharpness that belies his years. "A river does not carve a canyon in a day," he says. "It takes time, patience. The water does not hurry. It simply flows, and in flowing, it shapes the earth." He turns back to his chisel, sharpening it with slow, deliberate strokes. "When I was your age," he continues, "I thought speed was everything. I wanted to carve more statues, bigger statues, faster than anyone else. I thought strength was the key, swinging the hammer harder, driving the chisel deeper. But I broke more stone than I shaped. The statues I made were rough, clumsy, without soul. Kenji leans forward, interested despite himself. What changed? He asks. Hiroshi sets the chisel down and picks up a small, delicate tool, one with a fine point. He moves to the marble block and begins to work on the Buddha's face, his movements slow, precise, almost gentle. I worked with a master once, a man named Tanaka, who was 80 when I met him. He could barely lift a hammer. His hands shook. So much. But when he picked up a chisel, something happened. His hands became steady, as if the stone itself guided them. He worked slowly, so slowly I thought he would never finish. But when he did, the statue ... it was alive. You could see the kindness in its eyes, the peace in its smile. He pauses, running his fingers over the marble, as if feeling the shape beneath the surface. I asked him how he did it. He said, "Hiroshi, stone is not something to be conquered. It is something to be listened to. It has a shape within it, waiting to be released. You must be patient, quiet, and let it speak to you." At first, I thought he was talking nonsense, but then I tried it. I slowed down. I stopped trying to force the stone to be what I wanted it to be, and started listening to what it wanted to be. He looks up at Kenji, his eyes softening. That is the difference between a young stonecutter and an old one. A young man has strength, speed, enthusiasm, but he does not have patience. He does not have the wisdom to know that sometimes the most important thing is to wait, to listen, to let the stone reveal itself. Kenji scoffs, but there is a hint of uncertainty in his voice. But surely, strength and speed are important. If I can carve a statue in a month while you take a year, am I not more productive? More valuable? Hiroshi smiles, a small, sad smile. Productive? Perhaps, but valuable? That depends on what you mean by value. A potter can make 100 cups in a day if he works quickly, but they will be thin, fragile, easily broken. Or he can make 1 cup slowly, carefully, and it will be strong, beautiful, a thing to be cherished for generations. Which is more valuable? He turns back to the marble, his tool moving with a precision that is almost breathtaking. Look at this Buddha, he says, gesturing to the half-finished statue. When I first started, I saw only a block of stone, but after months of working with it, of listening to it, I see more. I see the way the light will catch its cheek, the way the folds of its robe will fall, the quiet strength in its posture. A young man might carve the shape, but only time and experience can give it life. He sets down his tool and steps back, looking at the statue with a mixture of pride and humility. When I was young, I thought age was a weakness. I thought that as my strength faded, my hands shook, my speed slowed, I would become useless. But now I see that age is a teacher. It teaches you to work smarter, not harder. It teaches you to trust your intuition, your experience, rather than your muscles. It teaches you that some things can only be learned with time, patience, wisdom, the ability to see beyond the surface. The morning sun streams through the workshop window, casting a golden light over the marble block. Kenji watches as Hiroshi picks up his tool again, his movement slow but sure, and begins to work on the Buddha's hands, shaping the fingers with a tenderness that is almost reverent. He thinks of his own work quick, rough, driven by a desire to prove himself. He thinks of the statues he has made and realizes that none of them have the quiet power of the one Hiroshi is creating. Do you ever feel ... left behind? Kenji asks, surprising himself with the question. When you see young men like me, working faster, lifting heavier, do you ever wish you were young again? Hiroshi stops working and looks at him, his eyes filled with a depth of understanding that Kenji has never seen in anyone else. There are days when I miss the strength of my youth, when my back does not ache after a day's work, when my hands do not shake. But I would not trade the wisdom of age for the strength of youth, any more than I would trade a mature oak tree for a sapling. The oak has weathered storms, grown deep roots, provided shade and shelter for countless creatures. The sapling has potential, but it has not yet learned the lessons that only time can teach. He turns back to the marble, his voice softening. Youth is a gift, Kenji, but so is age. They are simply different seasons of life, each with its own beauty, its own purpose. The trick is to embrace each season, to learn from it, to grow with it. Kenji stands there for a while, watching Hiroshi work. He thinks of his own grandfather, a man who could no longer work in the fields, but who knew the stories of the village. Who could predict the weather by the color of the sky? Who could calm a crying child with a single word? He had always thought of his grandfather as old, irrelevant, past his prime. But now he sees him differently, as someone who has accumulated a lifetime of wisdom, a wisdom that no young man could ever possess. The morning passes, and eventually, Kenji stands up to leave. "Thank you, Master Hiroshi," he says, his voice sincere. "I have learned more today than I did in 5 years of cutting stone." Hiroshi nods, not looking up from his work. "Remember, Kenji," he says, "the stone is always speaking. You just have to listen." As Kenji walks out of the workshop, he feels a strange sense of peace, a lightness in his chest. He thinks of the years ahead, of the wisdom he will gain, the lessons he will learn, and for the first time, he does not feel a hurry to get there. He realizes that life is not about how fast you go, or how much you accomplish, but about how deeply you listen, how fully you embrace each moment, each season. Inside the workshop, Hiroshi continues to work, his hands moving slowly, deliberately, as if in a dance with the stone. The Buddhist face is beginning to emerge now, its features soft, serene, full of quiet wisdom. It is a face that has seen much, endured much, and yet remains at peace, a face that understands that age is not a burden, but a blessing, a chance to grow deeper, wiser, more connected to the world around it. The day wears on, the sun moving across the sky, casting longer shadows as afternoon turns to evening. Hiroshi works steadily, pausing only to drink a cup of tea or to run his fingers over the marble, checking his progress. He does not hurry, does not rush. He is in no race. He is simply doing what he has done for 50 years, listening to the stone, helping it reveal the beauty within God as the sun begins to set. Painting the sky with shades of orange and purple, Hiroshi sets down his tools. He looks at the Buddha, and for a moment, he sees himself in its face, the lines, the wisdom, the quiet, strength. He thinks of the years ahead, of the statues he will carve, the lessons he will pass on, and he feels a sense of gratitude, a deep, abiding thankfulness for the gift of age, for the wisdom that only time can bring. The temple bell begins to ring just before dawn, its deep, resonant tone echoing through the valley, waking the village from its slumber. It is a sound that has been heard here for centuries, a sound that marks the beginning of each day, steady and unchanging, like the rising of the sun. The man who rings the bell is known simply as Old Jiro. He is 85, his back bent like a crescent moon, his hair as white as the snow that covers the mountain peaks in winter. Each morning, he climbs the stone steps to the bell tower, his breath coming in short, labored gasps, his hands gripping the wooden railing for support. It takes him longer these days. What once took 5 minutes now takes 20, but he has never missed a morning in over 60 years. The bell tower is a small, sturdy structure at the top of the temple grounds, its walls made of rough stone, its roof tiled with red clay that has faded to a soft terracotta over the years. Inside, hanging from a wooden beam, is the bell itself, a massive bronze bell, its surface etched with ancient symbols, its edges worn smooth by the hands of generations of monks who have rung it. This morning, as old Jiro reaches the top of the steps, he finds a young monk waiting for him. The young monk, whose name is Taro, is in his 20s, with a smooth, unlined face and a body strong from years of chopping wood and carrying water. He is panting slightly from the climb, but his eyes are bright, eager. "Master Jiro," Taro says. Bowing deeply, "The abbot has sent me. He thinks it is time for you to rest. Let me ring the bell from now on. I can climb the steps quickly. I can ring it louder, longer." Old Jiro holds up a hand, silencing him. He does not speak often, but when he does, his voice carries the weight of years, of experience, of a life lived in quiet contemplation. "The bell is not about loudness, Taro," he says, his voice soft but firm, "or speed. It is about ... presence." He moves to the bell, his steps slow but steady, and runs his fingers over its surface, as if greeting an old friend. The metal is cold beneath his touch, but there is a warmth to it, too, a sense of history, of all the mornings it has woken, all the lives it has touched. "When I first came to this temple," old Jiro says, his eyes distant, as if seeing a memory, "I was your age. I was strong, quick, full of energy. I thought ringing the bell was easy. Just pull the rope, make a noise. I would ring it fast, loud, as if trying to wake the entire world at once. But the old monk who taught me, he shook his head. He said, 'Jiro, the bell is not a tool to be used. It is a voice to be listened to. You must ring it with your heart, not just your hands.'" Taro frowns, confused. "With my heart? How?" Old Jiro smiles, a small, gentle smile that crinkles the corners of his eyes. "Sit," he says, gesturing to a wooden bench in the corner of the tower. Taro sits, and old Jiro stands beside the bell, closing his eyes. For a moment, there is only silence, the soft rustle of the wind through the trees, the distant chirp of a bird waking up. Then slowly, old Jiro reaches for the rope. He grips it with both hands, his fingers thin but strong, and pulls. The bell swings back, then forward, and its first note rings out, deep and rich, filling the tower, the temple grounds, the valley beyond. It is not the loudest bell Taro has ever heard, but there is something about it, something warm, something alive, that makes him stop and listen. Old Jiro pulls the rope again, and again, each note following the one before it, slow, steady, unhurried. There is a rhythm to it, a pattern that seems to match the beating of a heart, slow and sure. The notes hang in the air, lingering, blending with each other, creating a sound that is more than just noise. It is music, a song that speaks of peace, of patience, of the quiet beauty of a new day. As the last note fades, old Jiro lets go of the rope, his chest rising and falling with the effort. He turns to Taro, his eyes bright. "Do you hear it?" he asks. Taro nods, though he is not sure what he is hearing. "It is ... different," he says, "from how I ring it." "It is different," old Jiro agrees. "When you ring the bell, you ring it with your strength. You pull hard, fast, trying to make as much noise as possible. But when I ring it with my years. I ring it with every morning I have woken, every bell I have rung, every lesson I have learned. I ring it with the memory of the old monk who taught me, with the faces of all the monks who have come and gone, with the knowledge that this bell has rung for centuries before me and will ring for centuries after I'm gone." He sits down on the bench beside Taro, his joints creaking softly. "When I was young, I thought age was a curse. I thought that as I grew older, I would become weak, useless, a burden. But now I see that age is a gift. It is a gift of time, of experience, of perspective. It teaches you that there is more to life than speed and strength. It teaches you to slow down, to savor each moment, to find beauty in the quiet things." Taro looks at the bell, then at old Jiro, and for the first time, he sees the old monk not as someone to be pitied, but as someone to be admired. He sees the wisdom in his eyes, the peace in his smile, the strength that comes not from muscles, but from a lifetime of living with purpose. Do you ever feel sad? Taro asks. That you can't do the things you used to do? That you can't climb the steps as fast or ring the bell as loud? Old Jiro thinks for a moment, then shakes his head. Sadness is for what is lost, he says. But I have not lost anything. I have gained. I have gained the ability to see the world differently. When I was young, I saw only the steps I needed to climb, the bell I needed to ring. Now I see the beauty of the steps, the way the morning light plays on the stone, the way the moss grows in the cracks. I see the beauty of the bell, the way its notes echo through the valley, the way they wake not just the village, but the trees, the birds, the very earth itself. He stands up slowly and looks out the window of the bell tower at the sun rising over the mountains, painting the sky with shades of pink and gold. Each age has its own song, Taro, he says. The song of youth is loud, bright, full of energy. It is a song of possibility, of dreams, of all the things you want to do. But the song of age is quieter, deeper, richer. It is a song of gratitude, of wisdom, of all the things you have done, all the things you have learned, all the people you have loved. He turns to Taro, his eyes soft. There is no need to rush to be old, any more than there is to rush to be young. Each season has its own beauty. The spring is full of new life, the summer full of growth, the autumn full of harvest, the winter full of rest. None is better than the other. They are simply different, each in its own time. Taro stands up, bowing deeply. Thank you, Master Jiro, he says. I think I understand now. Old Jiro smiles. Good, he says. Now, let us go down to the temple. The morning meal will be ready soon. They walk down the stone steps together, old Jiro moving slowly, Taro walking beside him, matching his pace. The valley is awake now, the sound of the bell still lingering in the air, a reminder of the quiet wisdom of age, of the beauty of taking things slowly, of finding purpose in each moment, no matter how small dot as they reach the bottom of the steps. A group of children runs past, laughing, chasing each other. One of them stops, looking up at old Jiro. Grandfather Jiro, she says, will you tell us a story tonight? The one about the bell and the mountain? Old Jiro nods, his smile widening. Of course, he says, but first we must eat, and then we must work. There is much to be done, but there is also much to be grateful for. The child runs off, and old Jiro turns to Taro. You see, he says, the world does not need us to be fast or strong or young. It needs us to be present, to listen, to love. That is the true work of life, Taro. And it is a work that only gets richer with age. They walk into the temple, the morning sun warm on their backs, the sound of the bell still echoing in their hearts. For Taro, something has changed. He no longer sees old Jiro as someone to be replaced, but as someone to be cherished, a living reminder that age is not a burden, but a blessing, a chance to grow deeper, wiser, more connected to the world around. Use dot, and as the day unfolds, Taro finds himself slowing down, noticing things he has never noticed before, the way the light filters through the temple windows, the sound of the wind in the trees, the warmth of a friend's smile. He realizes that life is not a race to the finish, but a journey to be savored, step by step, moment by moment, each one precious, each one a gift. Dot in the bell tower. The bell hangs quietly, waiting for the next morning, for the next song, for the next chance to remind the world that there is beauty in slowness, in patience, in the quiet wisdom of age. And somewhere, in the heart of the temple, An old monk and a young monk sit together, sharing a meal, sharing stories, sharing the simple, profound joy of being alive, in this moment, in this time, exactly as they are. Down in the valley, where the river bends gently around a curve, there lies a boulder. It is not the largest stone in the valley, but it is the most weathered, its surface smooth and rounded, its edges worn soft by the water that has flowed around it for longer than anyone can remember. The villagers call it the guardian, for it stands sentinel at the bend, as if watching over the river as it makes its way to the sea. Near the boulder, on the banks of the river, there is a small wooden hut. It is home to an old woman named Hana, who has lived there for 70 years. When she first came to the valley as a young bride, the hut was new, the river was a little narrower, and the boulder was a little more angular. Now the hut is weathered, its wood gray with age, and the boulder has been shaped by the river into something almost beautiful, its surface catching the light like polished stone. Hana spends her days sitting on a bench outside her hut, watching the river flow. She is too old to work in the fields now, her hands too stiff to weave, her legs too weak to walk far. But she is content. There is a peace in watching the river, in its constancy, in the way it flows without hurry, without worry, simply doing what rivers do. This afternoon, a young girl from the village comes to visit. Her name is Yuki, and she is 12 years old, with a head full of curly black hair and a mind full of questions. She has come to ask Hana for help with her lessons. Her teacher has assigned an essay on the history of the valley, and Yuki wants to know everything there is to know. Hana smiles as Yuki runs up to her shoes splashing in the shallow water near the bank. "Sit, child," she says, patting the bench beside her. "What would you like to know?" Yuki sits down, her legs swinging back and forth, and looks out at the river. "The teacher says that the valley has changed a lot over the years," she says. "That the river used to be wider and the hills were different. Is that true?" Hana nods, her eyes distant with memory. "It is true," she says. "When I was your age, the river flooded every spring, covering the fields with water. The villagers would build dikes to keep it back, but the river always found a way through. It was wild, then unpredictable, full of power." She looks at the boulder, her gaze softening. "But then the guardian came. Or perhaps it was always here, and we just didn't notice. One year, after a particularly bad flood, the river changed course, began to flow around the boulder instead of over it. And slowly, over time, the boulder shaped the river, and the river shaped the boulder." Yuki frowns, confused. "How can a rock shape a river?" she asks. "Rivers are strong. They can move rocks, carve canyons. How can a single boulder change the way a river flows?" Hana chuckles, a low, warm sound. "Strength is not always about size, Yuki. Sometimes it is about persistence. The river is strong, yes, but it is also patient. It flows around the boulder, day after day, year after year, and in doing so, it wears away at the rock, shaping it, smoothing it. But the boulder, in turn, guides the river, directing its flow, making it slower, calmer, less likely to flood." She reaches down and picks up a smooth stone from the bank, handing it to Yuki. "Feel this," she says. Yuki takes the stone, running her fingers over its surface. It is cool and smooth, almost silky to the touch. "When this stone was first formed," Hana says, "it was rough, jagged, full of edges. But the river has been working on it for years, washing over it, carrying away the rough parts, polishing it until it is smooth. Is it less than it was before? Or is it more? It has lost its edges, but it has gained a beauty that it did not have before." Yuki thinks about this, turning the stone over in her hand. "I guess it's more beautiful now," she says. "But isn't It's sad that it lost its original shape. Hana shakes her head. Loss is only sad if what is gained is not worth it. The stone is not the same as it was, but it is still a stone. It has simply changed, adapted, become something new, like us. She looks at Yuki, her eyes twinkling. When you are young, you are like a rough stone full of edges, full of fire, full of plans. You think you know exactly who you are and what you want to be. But life is like the river. It flows around you, shaping you, smoothing your edges, teaching you things you did not know you needed to learn. You lose some things along the way, your youth, your speed, your certainty, but you gain others, wisdom, patience, peace. Yuki looks out at the boulder, then at the river flowing around it. So the boulder and the river, they help each other? She asks. Hana nods. They do. The river needs the boulder to give it direction, to calm its wildness. The boulder needs the river to smooth its rough edges, to reveal its beauty. They are not enemies, Yuki. They are partners, working together to shape the valley, to make it what it is. She thinks for a moment, then continues. I used to think that getting old was like being worn away by the river losing parts of myself until there was nothing left. I was afraid of it, afraid of becoming weak, of being forgotten. But now I see that it is not about losing. It is about becoming. The river does not destroy the boulder. It transforms it. And life does not destroy us. It transforms us. Yuki looks at Hana, really looks at her, at the lines on her face, the gray in her hair, the way her hands tremble slightly when she moves them. But she also sees the warmth in her eyes, the kindness in her smile, the wisdom in her words. Do you ever miss being young? Yuki asks. Hana smiles, a soft, gentle smile. I miss the energy, the fire, the sense that anything is possible. But I do not miss the fear of failure, the fear of not being good enough, the fear of the unknown. Age has a way of washing those fears away, like the river washes away the rough edges of a stone. She points to the boulder. Look at it, she says. It has been here for centuries, and it will be here for centuries more. It does not worry about the past or the future. It simply is, in this moment, being shaped by the river and shaping the river in return. That is the wisdom of age, Yuki too. Be present, to be grateful, to be content with what is. The sun begins to set, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple. The river reflects the light, turning into a ribbon of gold that winds its way through the valley. Yuki sits quietly, thinking about Hana's words, about the boulder and the river, about age and change. I think I understand now, she says finally. The essay is not just about the history of the valley. It's about how everything changes, but in changing, it becomes something better. Hana nods. That is exactly it, she says. Life is a river, Yuki. It flows, it changes, it shapes us and is shaped by us. And like the river, we must learn to flow, to adapt, to embrace the changes that come our way. Yuki stands up, hugging Hana tightly. Thank you, she says. I will write the best essay ever. Hana laughs, a warm, joyful sound. I know you will, she says. Now, run along home. Your mother will be wondering where you are. Yuki runs off, her laughter echoing through the valley, and Hana watches her go, a smile on her face. She turns back to the river, to the boulder, to the quiet beauty of the evening. She thinks about her own life, the years that have passed, the changes she has undergone, the rough edges that have been smoothed away by time. She thinks about the people she has loved, the lessons she has learned, the moments of joy and sorrow that have shaped her. And she realizes that she is like the boulder, not perfect, not unchanging, but beautiful in her imperfection, in her ability to adapt, to be shaped by life, and to shape life in return. She is not less than she was when she was young. She is more wise, more patient, more grateful for the simple, profound gift of being a live dot as the last light of day fades. Hannah stands up slowly, her joints creaking softly, and walks back into her hut. The river continues to flow, the boulder continues to stand, and the valley continues to change, slowly, gently, beautifully, like a story that unfolds one page at a time, each page full of wonder, each page a gift, dot, and somewhere in the quiet of the evening, the river and the boulder continue their dance, patient, persistent, perfect, reminding us all that change is not something to be feared, but something to be embraced, that age is not a burden, but a blessing, and that in the end, we are all shaped by the flow of time, and in turn, we shape it. Beyond the village, where the land slopes gently upward toward the hills, there lies a garden. It is not a large garden, but it is well tended, its soil rich and dark, its rows straight and neat. In the spring, it is a riot of green shoots, pushing up through the earth, leaves unfurling in the sun. In the summer, it is bursting with color-red tomatoes, yellow squash, purple eggplants, green beans climbing up trellises. In the autumn, it is heavy with fruit pumpkins lying fat and round on the ground, apples hanging from the branches of the small orchard at the edge. In the winter, it is quiet, resting, covered in a blanket of snow, waiting for the warmth of the sun to wake it again. This garden belongs to an old man named Masaru. He is 80 now, his face lined with the marks of a lifetime spent working in the sun, his hands gnarled and calloused from years of planting and weeding, harvesting and pruning. He has tended this garden for over 50 years since he first bought the small plot of land with his wife, who passed away 10 years ago. Not each morning, Masaru walks to the garden, his steps slow but steady, a straw hat on his head, a wooden basket in his hand. He does not hurry. He takes his time, pausing to greet his neighbors as they pass by, stopping to admire a particularly beautiful flower, lingering to watch a butterfly flit from one plant to another. Today, as he enters the garden, he finds his grandson, Kota, waiting for him. Kota is 19, tall and strong, home from the city where he is studying to be an engineer. He is wearing jeans and a t-shirt, his shoes clean and new, a look of impatience on his face. "Grandfather," Kota says, "I've been waiting for you. I thought we could get the garden ready for winter today. I have to leave tomorrow, and I want to help." Masaru smiles. "That is kind of you, Kota," he says. "But there is no hurry. Winter will come when it is ready, and we will be ready for it." Kota sighs. "But grandfather, look at you. You move so slowly. If we work together, we can finish in a few hours. You don't have to do this alone." Masaru nods, but he does not pick up a tool. Instead, he walks over to a row of tomato plants, now bare of fruit, their leaves turning yellow and brown. He runs his fingers over a leaf, as if saying goodbye. "When I was your age," he says, "I thought gardening was about speed, about planting as many seeds as possible, growing as much food as possible, harvesting as quickly as possible. I thought the more I did, the better gardener I was." He turns to Kota, his eyes twinkling. "But your grandmother taught me otherwise," she said. "Masaru, a garden is not a race. It is a dance. You have to move with the seasons, not against them. You have to be patient, to wait for the seeds to germinate, for the plants to grow, for the fruit to ripen. Rushing only makes things worse." Kota rolls his eyes, but there is a hint of amusement in his voice. "Grandmother always did have a way with words. But this is just a garden. It's not like it has feelings," Masaru chuckles. "Ah, but it does. A garden feels the sun, the rain, the wind. It responds to care, to attention, to love. You can't force it to grow faster than it wants to. You have to respect its rhythm, its timing. He bends down and begins to pull up the tomato plants, his movements slow and deliberate. Look at these plants, he says. In the spring, they were small and fragile, just shoots pushing up through the soil. In the summer, they grew tall and strong, heavy with fruit. Now, in the autumn, they are dying. But that is not the end. Their roots will feed the soil, making it richer for next year's plants. Their leaves will decompose, adding nutrients too. The earth, they are not wasted. They are part of the cycle. Koda watches as his grandfather works, his hands moving gently, as if handling something precious. But isn't it sad to see them die? He asks. Masaru shakes his head. Sadness is for things that are taken before their time. These plants have lived a full life. They have done what they were meant to do grown, produced fruit, fed us. Now it is their time to rest, to give back to the earth. That is not sad. That is beautiful. He stands up, brushing the dirt from his hands, and looks out at the garden. Life is like this garden, Koda. It has seasons. There is the spring of youth full of energy, of growth, of possibility. There is the summer of adulthood full of work, of responsibility, of building a life. There is the autumn of old age full of reflection, of gratitude, of giving back. And there is the winter, the end, but also a beginning, a time of rest before new life begins. He walks over to a small apple tree, its branches heavy with fruit. He picks an apple, polished it on his shirt, and hands it to Koda. Taste this. He says. Kota takes the apple and takes a bite. It is crisp and sweet, full of flavor. That's delicious, he says. Masaru smiles. It took this tree 10 years to bear fruit. 10 years of patience, of care, of waiting. When it was young, I thought it would never produce anything. I wanted to cut it down and plant a new one. But your grandmother said, "Wait, Masaru. Give it time. It is growing roots, getting strong. When it is ready, it will bear fruit, and it will be sweeter than any apple you have ever tasted." He looks at Koda, his eyes soft. She was right, and that is the way of things. Young trees do not bear fruit. Young people do not have wisdom. It takes time. It takes seasons. It takes living. Koda takes another bite of the apple, thinking about his grandfather's words. Do you ever wish you were young again? He asks. Able to work faster, to do more? Masaru thinks for a moment, then shakes his head. I was young once. I had my spring and my summer. I worked hard. I built a life. I raised a family. Now it is my autumn. I do not need to work as hard. I can slow down. I can enjoy the fruits of my labor. I can pass on what I have learned to you. He gestures to the garden. In the spring, I plant seeds. In the summer, I tend the plants. In the autumn, I harvest. In the winter, I rest and plan for next year. Each season has its own work, its own joy. I would not trade my autumn for your spring, any more than I would trade the harvest for the planting. Koda nods, a look of understanding crossing his face. I never thought of it that way, he says. I always thought getting old was about losing things, your strength, your energy, your independence. It is about losing some things, Masaru agrees. But it is also about gaining others. I have gained perspective. I have gained wisdom. I have gained the ability to see the beauty in small things, the way the light hits the leaves in the morning, the sound of rain on the roof, the taste of a ripe apple. He picks up a rake and begins to gather the fallen leaves, his movements slow but steady. Come, he says, let us work together. But let us work slowly. Let us enjoy the time we have. Together, in this garden, on this day. Koda picks up a rake and joins his grandfather, raking the leaves into piles. They work in silence for a while. The only sounds the rustle of leaves, the chirp of a bird, the soft breeze blowing through the trees. As they work, Kota finds himself slowing down, noticing things he has never noticed before: the way the soil smells after a rain, the way the leaves change color as they dry, the way his grandfather's hands, though old and gnarled, move with the precision and care that comes from years of practice. He realizes that his grandfather is not slow because he is old. He is slow because he is present. He is not rushing through the moment to get to the next one. He is savoring it, enjoying it, living it fully. When they have finished raking the leaves, they pile them around the base of the trees to protect their roots from the cold winter. Then they walk through the garden, pulling up the dead plants, putting them in a compost pile to decompose and feed the soil. As they work, Masaru tells Kota stories of his childhood, stories of his marriage to Kota's grandmother, stories of the garden and how it has changed over the years. Kota listens, fascinated, realizing that he has never really known his grandfather. Not like this. By the time they finish, the sun is beginning to set, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple. The garden looks neat and tidy, ready for winter. That was nice, Kota says, surprised by his own words. I'm glad I stayed. Masaru smiles. Me too, he says. Now let us go home. Your grandmother's recipe for apple pie is waiting, and we have a basket full of apples to use. They walk back to the house, their baskets full of apples, their hands dirty from working in the soil. As they walk, Kota thinks about his grandfather's words, about the garden and the seasons, about age and life. He realizes that life is not a race to the finish. It is a journey with different seasons, different joys, different challenges. Each season has its own beauty, its own purpose. And just as the garden needs all its seasons to thrive, so do we in the kitchen as they peel apples and prepare the pie. Kota thinks about his future. He thinks about the years ahead, the work he will do, the life he will build. But he also thinks about his grandfather and the wisdom he has shared. He realizes that he does not need to hurry. He can take his time. He can enjoy each season of his life, embrace each moment, learn from each experience. And when his autumn comes, he hopes he will be as wise, as content, as grateful as his grandfather. As the pie bakes in the oven, filling the house with a warm, sweet aroma, Masaru sits in his favorite chair, watching Kota as he cleans up the kitchen. He smiles, a soft, gentle smile, knowing that he has passed on more than just a recipe for apple pie. He has passed on a way of seeing the world, a way of living slowly, fully, gratefully, in harmony with the seasons of life. And outside, in the garden, the first stars begin to twinkle in the sky as the earth prepares for winter, for rest, for the promise of spring. It is a reminder that all things have their time, all things have their season, and that age, like autumn, is not an end, but a beautiful, bountiful part of the cycle of life. In the quiet corner of a small tea house at the edge of the village, there sits a gukin. It is not a grand instrument, nor is it decorated with elaborate carvings or inlays. Its wood is dark and smooth, worn thin in places by the hands of those who have played it over the years, its surface marked with the faint scars of time. But to those who know how to listen, it is the most beautiful gukin in the valley. The tea house is run by an old woman named Keiko. She is 75, her hair pulled back in a neat bun, her movements slow and graceful, like the unfolding of a flower. She has played the gukin since she was a young girl, taught by her mother, who was taught by her mother before her. The instrument has been in her family for 5 generations, passed down from mother to daughter, each one adding her own layer of history, her own touch of life to its strings. Each evening, as the sun sets and the tea house fills with villagers seeking a moment of peace after a long day, Keiko sits down at the gukin She does not rush. She takes her time, adjusting her sleeves, smoothing her skirt, closing her eyes for a moment to center herself. Then she places her fingers on the strings and begins to play. The music that fills the tea house is not loud or showy. It is soft, gentle, like a whisper carried on the wind. It is the music of mountains and rivers, of moonlit nights and quiet mornings, of joy and sorrow, of life and death. It is music that speaks to the heart, that stirs something deep within. That makes people stop and listen, forgetting for a moment the worries of the day. This evening, there is a young man in the tea house. His name is Akira, and he is a musician from the city, traveling through the valley in search of inspiration. He is in his 20s, with a sleek guitar case by his side, his clothes fashionable, his hair styled in the latest trend. He has heard of Keiko's gukin and has come to see what all the fuss is about. As Keiko plays, Akira listens, his furrowed in confusion. The music is simple, almost too simple. There are no complicated chords, no flashy runs, no dramatic shifts in tempo. It is just ... beautiful. But why? When Keiko finishes playing, the tea house erupts in applause. She smiles, a soft, grateful smile, and bows her head. Akira stands up and walks over to her, his guitar case in hand. "Your playing is very nice," he says, choosing his words carefully. "But forgive me for saying so. That gukin is old, worn, out. The strings are frayed, the wood is cracked. Why do you play it? You could have a new gukin, one with better sound, better tone." Keiko looks at him, her eyes warm and wise. "This gukin has been in my family for over 100 years, she says. My great-grandmother played it, my grandmother, my mother. Now I play it. It has been played by lovers and mourners, by celebrants and seekers. It has been played in times of joy and times of sorrow. It has heard stories, Akira. It has felt emotions. It has lived." She runs her fingers over the strings, which are indeed frayed in places, their once bright sheen dulled by time. "A new gukin is like a young bird," she says. "It has a beautiful voice, yes, but it has not learned to sing. It has not felt the wind in its wings, the rain on its feathers, the joy of flight. It is pure, but it is not deep." Akira scoffs. "Deep? What does that mean?" "A guitar is a guitar. A gukin is a gukin. A new one will always sound better than an old one. The wood is fresher, the strings are newer, the craftsmanship is better." Keiko smiles. "Would you like to hear the difference?" she asks. She stands up and walks to a small cabinet in the corner of the tea house, opening it to reveal a second gukin. This one is new, its wood polished to a high shine, its strings bright and taut, its surface free of scars or marks. "This gukin was given to me by a student last year," she says. "It is a fine instrument, made by a master craftsman. Would you like to play it?" Akira nods, eager to prove his point. He sits down at the new gukin, adjusts his posture, and begins to play a piece. He has composed himself. It is a beautiful piece, full of energy and passion, his fingers flying over the strings with speed and precision. When he finishes, there is polite applause from the villagers. "See?" Akira says, standing up. "Clearer, brighter, more vibrant. That's what a new instrument can do." Keiko nods. "It is beautiful," she says, "but let me play the same piece on my old gukin." She sits down at her familiar instrument, closes her eyes for a moment, then begins to play. The same notes, the same melody, and yet ... it is different. The music is deeper, richer, warmer. It wraps around the listeners like a blanket, comforting, reassuring, full of meaning. There is a weight to it, a depth that was missing from Akira's playing on the new gukin. When she finishes, the applause is longer, louder, more heartfelt. Akira stands there, stunned. He has played the piece 100 times, but he has never heard it sound like that. Keiko looks up at him, her eyes twinkling. Do you hear it now? She asks. Akira nods, his voice barely a whisper. What is it? What's the difference? The difference is time, Keiko says. This old guqin has been played for 100 years. The wood has been seasoned by the hands of generations of players. The strings have been stretched and relaxed, plucked and strummed 1,000,000 times. The instrument has learned to resonate with the music, to breathe with it, to become one with it. She picks up a string from the old guqin, holding it up to the light. This string is frayed, yes, but it has been played so much that it knows exactly how to vibrate, exactly how to produce the perfect note. It has been broken and restrung, but each time it comes back stronger, more responsive, more alive. Akira thinks about his guitar, how he replaces the strings every few months, how he is always looking for a newer, better model. He thinks about the music he plays, how it is full of technique and skill, but lacks ... something. He realizes now what that something is. It is depth, it is history, it is life. When I was young, Keiko says, I wanted to play fast, to play complicated pieces, to show off my skill. I thought that was what made a good musician. But my mother said to me, Keiko, music is not about how fast you play or how many notes you hit. It is about how much you feel. It is about letting the instrument speak through you, about connecting with the music, with the moment, with the people who are listening. She looks at Akira, her eyes soft. Age is like this guqin, Akira. It wears away the rough edges, smooths out the imperfections, deepens the tone. A young person is like a new guqin full of potential, full of energy, but lacking the depth that comes from living. They think they know everything, but they have not yet learned the most important lesson, that life is not about being perfect. It is about being real. Akira sits down at the old guqin, running his fingers over the wood, feeling the scars, the dents, the marks of time. Can I try again? He asks. Keiko nods. Akira takes a deep breath, closes his eyes, and thinks about all the things he has learned today. He thinks about time, about history, about life. Then he begins to play. The music is slower this time, more deliberate. He does not rush, does not try to show off. He simply plays, letting the guqin speak through him, letting the music flow from his heart. When he finishes, there is silence for a moment, then thunderous applause. Akira opens his eyes, surprised by the emotion he feels. He has never played like that before. He has never felt so connected to the music, to the instrument, to the people. Around him, Keiko smiles. You see, she says, the guqin was waiting for you to listen, just as life is waiting for all of us to listen. It is not about being young or old, fast or slow, perfect or imperfect. It is about being present. It is about being alive. The evening wears on, and Akira stays in the tea house, listening to Keiko play, talking to her about music, about life, about age. He learns that the most beautiful music is not made by the newest instrument or the most skilled musician, but by the one who has lived, who has felt, who has loved. As he packs his guitar case to leave, Akira turns to Keiko. Thank you, he says. I came here looking for inspiration, but I found something more. I found a way to listen. Keiko smiles. The music is always there, Akira, she says. You just have to be quiet enough to hear it. And that, my young friend, is a lesson that comes with age. Akira walks out of the tea house, the sound of Keiko's guqin still echoing in his ears. He thinks about the journey ahead, about the music he will create, about the life he will live. He realizes that he no longer needs to rush, to be perfect, to have the newest, best things. He just needs to live fully, deeply, authentically, and let the music of his life unfold. One note at a time. Inside the tea house, Keiko sits down at her old gukin, ready to play another song. The wood is dark and smooth, the strings frayed. But true, it is not a perfect instrument, but it is a beautiful one, just like life, just like age, just like all of us. And as the music fills the room, soft and gentle, warm and deep, it is a reminder that some things get better with time, that age is not a curse, but a blessing, that the most beautiful things in life are not the ones that are new and perfect, but the ones that have been lived, loved, and cherished. The road winds through the mountains like a ribbon, narrow and winding, its surface rough with stones and ruts. It is a road that has been traveled for centuries, by merchants and pilgrims, by travelers and wanderers, each one leaving their mark, each one adding to the story of the path. Today, a monk walks this road. He is old, his back bent from years of carrying a heavy pack, his feet calloused and sore from miles of walking. His robes are worn and patched, his hair and beard white as snow, his face lined with the marks of sun and wind and time. But there is a light in his eyes, a peace in his step that belies his years. His name is Genji, and he has been walking this road and roads like it for over 50 years. Genji is a wandering monk, one who has no fixed home, no temple to call his own. He travels from village to village, from mountain to valley, sharing stories, offering comfort, listening to the troubles of those he meets. He carries with him only a small pack, a bowl for eating, a blanket for sleeping, a few scrolls of scripture, and a walking stick carved from oak, its surface smooth from years of use. As he walks, he hums softly to himself, a tune he learned as a young monk, a tune that has traveled with him through the years. The mountains around him are quiet, their peaks covered in mist, their slopes green with pine trees. The air is crisp and clean, filled with the scent of pine and earth. It is a beautiful day, a day made for walking, a day made for being alive. Midday, Genji comes to a small village nestled in a valley. He stops at the edge of the village, sitting down on a large rock to rest his feet. As he sits, a group of children runs past, their laughter loud and joyous. One of them, a boy of about 10, stops and looks at Genji, curiosity in his eyes. "Are you a monk?" the boy asks. Genji smiles. "I am," he says. "Where are you going?" the boy asks. Genji looks up at the mountains, their peaks disappearing into the mist. "I'm not sure," he says. "I'm just going." The boy frowns. "That's silly. Why would you walk if you don't know where you're going?" Genji chuckles. "Sometimes the journey is more important than the destination," he says. "Sometimes it's not about where you're going, but about what you see along the way, who you meet, what you learn." The boy thinks about this for a moment, then runs off to join his friends, shouting over his shoulder, "My grandfather says old people talk nonsense." Genji laughs, a warm, hearty laugh that echoes through the valley. He knows. The boy does not mean any harm. He was young once too, full of questions, full of energy, full of the certainty that he knew everything. As the afternoon wears on, Genji enters the village. He is greeted by a few of the villagers, some of whom recognize him from his previous visits. He stops to talk to an old woman sitting outside her hut, listening as she tells him about her garden, about her grandchildren, about the weather. He stops to help a young man repair a broken cart, his hands moving slowly but surely, his years of experience guiding him. He stops to share his bowl of rice with a hungry child, smiling as the child eats, his eyes bright with gratitude. By evening, Genji is sitting by a small fire in the center of the village, surrounded by villagers who have come to hear his stories. Among them is the boy from earlier, now sitting quietly, his eyes wide with curiosity. "Tell us about your travels, monk," an old man says. "Tell us about the places you've been, the things you've seen." Genji nods, taking a sip of tea from his bowl. "I have traveled many roads," he says. "I have seen mountains higher than these, rivers wider than any you have ever imagined. I have visited cities with palaces of gold, villages so small they have only one hut. I have met kings and beggars, scholars and fools, saints and sinners." He pauses, looking into the fire, his eyes distant with memory. "When I was young, I thought the purpose of traveling was to see new things, to collect stories, to prove to myself and others that I was brave, that I was adventurous. I walked as fast as I could, rushing from one place to the next, afraid I would miss something, afraid I would run out of time." The boy leans forward, his eyes even wider. "Did you ever run out of time?" He asks. "Chi, I smiles. "No," he says, "but I came close. I walked so fast, I missed the beauty of the road. I missed the way the sun sets over the mountains, the way the river sings as it flows, the way a child's laughter can make even the darkest day bright. I was so focused on getting to the next place, I forgot to be in the place I was." He looks around at the villagers, his eyes warm and wise. "Then, one day, I met an old monk, much older than I am now, sitting by a river. He was fishing, but he wasn't really fishing. He was just sitting, watching the water, smiling to himself. I asked him why he wasn't trying to catch anything. He sighed, 'Young monk, the fish will come when they are ready. There is no need to hurry. The river flows, the sun shines, the world turns. Everything in its own time.'" Genji takes another sip of tea. "That old monk taught me something important. He taught me to slow down, to stop rushing, to be present, to appreciate the journey, not just the destination. And as I slowed down, I began to see things I had never seen before. I began to hear things I had never heard before. I began to learn things I had never learned before." The boy raises his hand. "What did you learn?" He asks. Chi. I thinks for a moment, then says, "I learned that happiness is not in the next place, or the next thing, or the next adventure. It is in this moment, right here, right now. It is in the warmth of the fire, the taste of the tea, the sound of your voices. It is in the people we love, the things we do, the life we live." He looks at the boy, his eyes twinkling. "I learned that age is not a burden, but a gift. It is a gift of time, of experience, of wisdom. When I was young, I thought I knew everything. But the older I get, the more I realize how little I know. And that is a beautiful thing. It means there is always more to learn, more to see, more to experience." One of the villagers, a woman in her 40s, speaks up. "But don't you get tired? Don't you wish you could settle down? Have a home? A family?" Genji nods. "There are days when I am tired. Days when my feet ache, when my back hurts, when I long for a soft bed and a warm fire. But then I remember all the things I have seen, all the people I have met, all the lessons I have learned. And I realize that this life, this wandering, is my home. These roads, these mountains, these villages, they are my family." He looks into the fire again, his voice softening. "I have lost much over the years. Friends who have passed away, temples that have crumbled, dreams that have faded. But I have gained much too. I have gained wisdom, peace, gratitude. I have gained a heart that is full not of things, but of love, of joy, of life." The fire crackles, sending sparks up into the night sky. The villagers sit quietly, thinking about Genji's words, about their own lives. about the journeys they are on. The boy, who has been quiet for a while, speaks up again. Do you ever miss being young? He asks. I smiles. I miss the energy, the fire, the sense of invincibility. But I do not miss the fear of the unknown, the fear of failure, the fear of not being good enough. Age has a way of washing those fears away. It teaches you that you are enough, just as you are. That your life, just as it is enough. He stands up slowly, his joints creaking softly. It is time for me to rest, he says. I will be on my way tomorrow, but for tonight, I am grateful to be here with all of you. The villagers bid him good night, and Genji finds a quiet spot under a tree to sleep, his blanket wrapped around him, his walking stick by his side. As he lies there, looking up at the stars, he thinks about his life, about the roads he has traveled, about the years that have passed. He thinks about the young monk he once was, full of ambition and fire, and smiles. He was a good young monk, but he was missing something. He was missing the wisdom that comes with age, the peace that comes with letting go, the gratitude that comes with living a long, full life. As he drifts off to sleep, he feels a sense of contentment, a deep, abiding peace. He knows that his journey is not over, that there are still roads to walk, mountains to climb, villages to visit. But he is not in a hurry. He will take his time, savoring each moment, appreciating each step, grateful for the gift of life in all its seasons. The next morning, as the sun rises over the mountains, Genji packs his things and says goodbye to the villagers. The boy from the previous night runs up to him, holding out a small stone, smooth and round, like the ones found in the river. For you, the boy says, to remember our village by. Genji takes the stone, holding it in his hand. It is warm from the boy's touch, smooth and solid. Thank you, he says. I will carry it with me, always. He puts the stone in his pack, alongside the other small treasures he has collected over the years. A shell from the sea, a feather from a bird, a piece of wood from a sacred tree. Each one is a memory, a reminder of a place he has been, a person he has met, a moment he has cherished. As he walks out of the village, the boy calls after him, where will you go next? Genji turns and smiles. I don't know, he says, but I'm sure it will be wonderful. And with that, he turns and continues. Down the road, his step steady, his heart light, his mind open to whatever the journey may bring. He knows that age is not a barrier, but a bridge to a deeper understanding of life, a deeper appreciation of the world, a deeper connection to all that is. And as he walks, the mountains around him seem to smile. The river seemed to sing. The wind seemed to whisper, as if welcoming him, as if saying, welcome, old friend. The journey continues. And it is beautiful. At the foot of the mountain, where the forest gives way to a small meadow, there stands a pottery studio. It is a simple structure, its walls made of clay and straw, its roof thatched with reeds. Inside, the air is thick with the smell of damp, clay and wood smoke, a scent that has hung in the air for over 40 years. In the center of the studio, dominating the space, is a large kiln, its brick walls blackened by decades of use, its interior a mystery of fire and heat. The studio belongs to an old man named Shoshi. He is 78, his hands stained with clay, his hair matted with dust, his face lined with the marks of a lifetime spent working with his hands. He has been a potter since he was a boy, learning the craft from his father, who learned it from his father before him. For Shoshi, pottery is not just a job, not just a hobby. It is a way of life, a meditation, a dialogue with the earth and the fire. Each morning, Shoshi wakes with the sun, walks to his studio, and begins to work. He starts by kneading the clay, his hands moving in slow, deliberate circles, pressing and folding, working out the air bubbles, making the clay smooth and pliable. It is a process that takes time, patience, but Shoshi does not hurry. He knows that good clay, like a good life, needs to be worked slowly, carefully, with intention. Once the clay is ready, he sits down at his wheel, a simple wooden wheel turned by foot. He places a lump of clay on the wheel, starts it spinning, and begins to shape it, his fingers moving with a precision that is almost magical. He does not use a ruler or a template. He does not need to. After 40 years, he knows the feel of the clay, knows how it will respond to his touch, knows what shape it wants to become. Today, as he works, his granddaughter, Maiko, watches him. Maiko is 18, a student at a university in the city, home for the summer. She is bright and curious, with her grandfather's hands but her mother's restlessness. She has always been fascinated by her grandfather's work, but she has never understood why he takes so long, why he does not use modern tools, why he insists on doing everything by hand. "Grandfather," she says, as Shoshi shapes a small ball, "why do you do this? Why not use a machine? It would be faster, easier, more efficient." Shoshi does not look up from his work. His hands continue to move, shaping the clay, guiding it into form. "A machine makes things," he says, his voice low and gravelly, like the sound of clay being worked. "A hand makes art. A machine does not. Feel the clay, does not listen to it. It simply does what it is told." He pauses, lifting the bowl off the wheel and setting it aside to dry. "When I was your age," he continues, "I thought the same as you. I wanted to be fast, to be efficient, to make more pots than anyone else. I tried using machines, using molds, using all the latest techniques. But the pots I made were ... empty. They had no soul. They were just things." Maiko sits down on a stool, crossing her legs. "What changed?" she asks. Shoshi picks up another lump of clay, starts the wheel spinning again. "I worked with a master potter once," he says. "A man named Ichiro, who was 90 when I met him. He could barely see. His hands shook so badly. But when he touched the clay, something happened. His hands became steady, as if the clay itself guided them. He worked slowly, so slowly I thought he would never finish. But when he did, the pot ... it was alive. It had a presence, a beauty that no machine could ever replicate. He shapes the clay into a cup, his fingers moving with a tenderness that is almost reverent. I asked him how he did it. He said, "Shoshi, clay is not just dirt. It is the earth itself. It has memory, it has life. You must treat it with respect, with patience, with love. You must listen to it. Let it tell you what it wants to be." Maiko frowns. "But how do you listen to clay? It's just clay." Shoshi smiles, a small, gentle smile that crinkles the corners of his eyes. "You feel it," he says. "You feel its texture, its weight, its moisture. You feel how it responds to your touch, how it wants to move, how it wants to be shaped. It is a conversation, Maiko, a dialogue between your hands and the earth." He sets the cup aside and stands up, stretching his back. "Come," he says. "It is time to fire the kill. You have never seen that, have you?" Maiko shakes her head. She has seen the kill, of course, but she has never watched her grandfather fire it. He always does that alone at night, as if it is a secret ritual. Shoshi leads her to the kill, which is filled with pots ready to be fire bowls. Cups, vases, plates, each one unique, each one bearing the marks of his hands. He builds a fire. Inside, using small pieces of wood, carefully arranging them to create the right amount of heat. "This is the most important part," he says, as the fire begins to crackle. The firing. The heat, too little, and the pots will be weak, fragile. Too much, and they will crack, break, be destroyed. You have to find the perfect temperature, the perfect balance. He stands back, watching the fire, his eyes fixed on the flames. When I was young, he says, I thought firing was about control, about making sure the temperature was exactly right, about following a formula. But it is not. It is about intuition, about feeling the heat, smelling the smoke, listening to the fire. It is about knowing when to add more wood, when to let the fire die down, when to open the kill. Maiko watches as her grandfather tends the fire, adding a piece of wood here, adjusting the damper there, his movements slow, deliberate, almost meditative. He does not use a thermometer, does not check a gauge. He just knows. How do you know? She asks. How do you know when it's right? Shoshi turns to her, his eyes bright. I have been firing kilns for over 60 years, he says. I have burned pots, broken pots, ruined pots. I have learned from my mistakes. I have learned to feel the heat in my bones, to smell when the fire is right, to hear when the pots are ready. He points to the kiln, where the fire is now burning brightly, casting a warm glow over the studio. The kiln talks to me, Maiko. It tells me when it is hot enough, when it is time to let the pots rest. It is a language that can only be learned with time, with practice, with patience. A young man can learn the techniques, but only an old man can learn the language. As the night wears on, Maiko sits with her grandfather, watching the kiln, listening to him talk about pottery, about life, about age. She learns that making pottery is not just about shaping clay and firing it in a kiln. It is about patience, about presence, about respecting the natural world and its rhythms. She learns that the kiln's heat is like time. It can be harsh, destructive, if not respected. But if approached with care, with wisdom, with understanding, it can transform something ordinary into something extraordinary. It can turn clay into art, into something that will last for generations. At dawn, Shoshi opens the kiln, the heat pouring out in a wave, the air filled with the smell of burned wood and fired clay. He reaches inside, using a long pair of tongs, and pulls out a small bowl. Its surface a rich, deep brown, its edges smooth and even. He hands it to Maiko. Feel it, he says. Maiko takes the bowl, her fingers brushing against its surface. It is still warm, its texture smooth, but not perfect, with small imperfections that give it character, that make it unique. It's beautiful, she says, surprised by the emotion she feels. Shoshi nods. It is not perfect, he says, but that is its beauty. Perfect is boring. Perfect has no soul. It is the imperfections, the flaws, the marks of the hand that make it alive. He pulls out another pot, a vase with a slightly crooked neck. This one is flawed, he says, but I love it. It tells a story, the story of the clay, the story of the fire, the story of my hands. It is honest. It is real. Maiko thinks about her own life, about her desire for perfection, for success, for doing things the right way, the fast way, the easy way. She thinks about the pressure she feels to be perfect, to have it all figured out, to never make mistakes. Do you ever get frustrated, she asks, when a pot breaks, when the firing goes wrong? Shoshi smiles. Of course, but frustration is a teacher. It teaches you to try again, to learn, to grow. Every broken pot is a lesson. Every mistake is a step forward. He looks at her, his eyes soft. Life is like a kiln, Maiko. It is full of heat, of fire, of challenges. It can be harsh. It can be destructive. But if you approach it with patience, with wisdom, with understanding, it can transform you. It can turn you into something stronger, something more beautiful, something with soul. He pauses, his gaze drifting to the mountains in the distance. When I was young, I thought age was a weakness. I thought that as I grew older, I would become less capable, less useful, less alive. But now I see that age is a strength. It is the fire that transforms the clay. It is the heat that gives the pot its strength, its beauty, its soul. Maiko looks at her grandfather, really looks at him. She sees the lines on his face, the gray in his hair, the way his hands tremble when he is not working with clay. But she also sees the wisdom in his eyes, the peace in his smile, the strength that comes not from muscles, but from a lifetime of creating, of learning, of growing. I think I understand now, she says, her voice soft. Why you do this? Why you? Take your time. Why you listen to the clay? Shoshi nods. Good, he says. Now let us make some tea. The bowls are cool enough to use. They sit down together, drinking tea from the bowls Shoshi made, the warmth of the tea and the bowl seeping into their hands. Maiko thinks about the day ahead, about the summer, about her future. She realizes that she does not need to rush, that she does not need to be perfect, that she can take her time, learn from her mistakes, grow at her own pace. She realizes that age is not a barrier, but a gift. It is the fire that transforms us, the heat that gives us strength, the wisdom that comes from a lifetime of living. It is the story we tell with our lives, the imperfections that make us unique, the beauty that comes from being honest, from being real. As the sun rises over the mountains, casting a warm glow over the studio, Shoshi and Miko sit in silence, savoring the moment, savoring the tea, savoring the simple, profound joy of being together, of being alive, of being part of something larger than themselves, the earth, the fire, the clay, the art, the life that connects them all. And in the kill, now cool, the pots rest, each one a story, each one a lesson, each one a reminder that beauty comes not from perfection, but from patience, from presence, from the willingness to listen, to learn, to grow no matter how old we are. As the moon rises over the valley, painting the world in soft silver light, an old man sits on a wooden porch, watching the bamboo grove at the edge of his garden. His name is Ren, and he is 82. For over 50 years, he has sat here, each night, watching the bamboo, listening to the wind rustle through its leaves, finding peace in the quiet rhythm of the night. Ren's house is small, simple, with a thatched roof and paper screens that glow softly in the moonlight. It is surrounded by a garden, but not a garden of flowers or vegetables. This is a garden of bamboo-tall, slender stalks that reach toward the sky, their leaves swaying gently in the breeze. It is a garden that has grown with Ren, that has seen him through joy and sorrow, through youth and age. Tonight, Ren is not alone. His great-nephew Toshi is visiting from the city. Toshi is 22, a student of philosophy, with a head full of questions and a heart full of restlessness. He has come to visit his great-uncle, to learn from him, to understand the peace that seems to surround Ren like a gentle aura. Toshi sits beside Ren on the porch, his legs crossed, his eyes fixed on the bamboo. "It's beautiful," he says after a while. "But why bamboo? Why not roses or cherry blossoms?" Ren smiles, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Bamboo is honest," he says, his voice soft, like the rustle of leaves. "It does not pretend to be something it is not. It grows straight and tall, but it bends in the wind. It is strong, but it is flexible. It is simple, but it is profound." He points to the bamboo, where the moonlight filters through the leaves, casting shadows on the ground. The shadows twist and turn, dance and sway, as the wind moves the bamboo. "Look at the shadows," Ren says. "They are never the same. They change with the wind, with the moon, with the time of night. But the bamboo itself remains. It is the same bamboo, even as its shadow changes. Toshi frowns, thinking, "What does that mean?" He asks, "It means that change is an illusion," Ren says. "Or perhaps it is only part of the truth. The shadow changes, but the bamboo does not. The form changes, but the essence remains. It is the same with us, Toshi. Our bodies change, we grow old, our hair turns gray, our steps slow. But the essence of who we are, the part of us that is beyond form, remains the same." Toshi looks at Ren, his eyes filled with curiosity. "The essence of who we are?" he says. "What is that?" Ren leans back, his hands resting on his lap. "It is the part of you that is not your body, not your thoughts, not your feelings. It is the part of you that has always been there, that will always be there. It is the part of you that is aware, that is alive, that is connected to everything else." He looks up at the moon, its light shining bright in the sky. "When I was young," he says, "I thought I was my body, my thoughts, my achievements. I thought that when my body grew old, when my thoughts slowed, when my achievements faded, I would be gone. I was afraid of age, afraid of death, afraid of losing myself." He turns to Toshi, his eyes clear and steady. "But then I began to watch the bamboo. I began to see that the shadow is not the bamboo, that the form is not the essence. I began to understand that I am not my body, not my thoughts, not my achievements. I am something more, something eternal, something unchanging." Toshi leans forward, interested. "How did you come to understand that?" he asks. Ren smiles. "It was not a sudden realization," he says. "It was a slow, gradual awakening. It came from sitting here, night after night, watching the bamboo. It came from listening to the wind, to the silence, to the stillness within." He pauses, as if listening to something only he can hear. "One night, many years ago, I was sitting here, just like this, watching the bamboo. The moon was full, the sky was clear, and the bamboo shadows were long and thin, stretching across the ground. I looked at the shadows, and then I looked at the bamboo, and suddenly I saw it. The shadows were changing, but the bamboo was not. The form was changing, but the essence was the same." He looks at Toshi, his voice softening. "In that moment, I realized that I was like the bamboo. My body would change, my life would change, but the essence of who I am would remain. I was not afraid anymore. I was at peace." Toshi sits quietly, thinking about Ren's words. He thinks about his own life, about the changes he has already experienced, about the changes to come. He thinks about his fear of getting old, of losing his youth, his vitality, his possibilities. "Do you ever feel sad?" he asks, "when you look in the mirror and see how you've changed?" Ren nods. "There are moments when I see the lines on my face, the gray in my hair, the way my hands tremble. But then I remember the bamboo. I remember that the lines on my face are like the marks on the bamboo stalks. They tell a story, the story of my life. The gray in my hair is like the mist that sometimes covers the bamboo. It adds a softness, a beauty that was not there before." He reaches out and touches Toshi's hand, his own hand warm and dry, with a few age spots and a network of wrinkles. "These hands," he says, "have held children, have planted seeds, have built a home. They have worked hard. They have loved deeply. They have lived fully. They are not as strong as they once were, but they are wiser. They know when to hold on and when to let go." The wind picks up, rustling through the bamboo, making the shadows dance more wildly on the ground. Ren watches them, a smile on his face. "See how the shadows change?" he says. "But the bamboo remains. It is the same with life, Toshi. The circumstances change, the people change, the world changes. But the essence remains. The love remains. The peace remains. The joy remains. Toshi looks at the bamboo and at Ren, and for a moment he sees it. He sees that Ren is not just an old man with a wrinkled face and trembling hands. He is a repository of wisdom, of love, of life. He is a living example of the truth that age is not a loss, but a gain, that it is a journey into deeper understanding, into greater peace, into more profound joy. I think I understand, Toshi says, his voice soft. It's not about holding on to youth, to what was. It's about embracing what is, about recognizing that the essence of who we are is unchanging. Ren nods. That is it, he says. Youth is a season, Toshi, just like spring. It is beautiful, it is vibrant, it is full of possibility, but it is not the only season. Summer brings growth, autumn brings harvest, winter brings rest. Each season has its own beauty, its own purpose. And just as the bamboo does not mourn the passing of spring, we should not mourn the passing of youth. He stands up slowly, his joints creaking softly, and stretches his arms toward the sky. Come, he says, let us walk among the bamboo. Let us feel its essence, its strength, its peace. Toshi stands up and follows Ren into the bamboo grove. The moonlight filters through the leaves, dappling the ground with silver. The air is cool, fresh, filled with the scent of bamboo and earth. As they walk, Ren runs his hand along the bamboo stalks, his fingers brushing against the smooth, cool surface. This bamboo, he says, was planted by my father over 100 years ago. It has seen generations come and go. It has survived storms, droughts, floods. It has been cut down, but it has always grown back, stronger, taller than before. He stops and looks at a young bamboo shoot just beginning to push its way through the ground. This one is new, he says. It is small, fragile, but it has the same essence as the old bamboo. It is connected to it, part of the same family, part of the same life force. Toshi thinks about his own family, about the generations that have come before him, about the legacy they have passed down. He thinks about Ren and the wisdom he is passing on, and realizes that he is part of something larger than himself, part of a chain that stretches back through time, part of the same life. Force that animates the bamboo, the moon, the stars dot as they walk back to the house. The moon is higher in the sky, its light brighter, more intense. The bamboo shadows are shorter now, more compact, but still dancing, still changing. Ren sits down on the porch, and Toshi sits beside him. They sit in silence for a while, watching the bamboo, listening to the wind, feeling the peace of the night. I'm glad I came here, Toshi says, finally. I have learned more in one night than I have in years of studying philosophy. Ren smiles. Philosophy is good, he says, but life is better. The bamboo does not read books, Toshi. It does not study philosophy. It just is. And in being, it teaches us everything we need to know. The night wears on, and eventually, Toshi feels his eyes growing heavy. He says goodnight to Ren and goes to bed, but as he lies there, he cannot sleep. He thinks about the bamboo, about the shadows, about the essence that remains unchanged. He thinks about Ren and the peace that radiates from him, and he feels a sense of calm, a sense of understanding that he has never felt before. He realizes that he does not need to fear age or change or death. He realizes that the essence of who he is eternal, unchanging, connected to everything else. He realizes that life is a journey, not a destination, and that each season, each moment, each experience is a gift to be cherished. Outside, Ren sits on the porch, watching the bamboo, listening to the wind. He knows that Toshi is beginning to understand that the seed has been planted. He knows that it will take time, that the journey is long, But he also knows that the essence of truth is already within Toshi, just waiting to be discovered. Just like the bamboo shoot waiting to push its way through the ground dot, as the first light of dawn begins to color the sky. Ren stands up, stretches, and walks into the house. The bamboo remains, standing tall and strong, its shadows now long and thin again, as the sun rises over the mountains. It is a new day, a new season, a new beginning, but the bamboo is the same. Its essence remains, unchanging, eternal, a reminder that in the midst of all the change and uncertainty in life, there is something that remains, something that is always. There, something that is home. And Ren, too, is the same. His body has aged, his life has changed, but his essence remains wise, peaceful, connected to all that is. He is a part of the bamboo, a part of the moon, a part of the sky, a part of the eternal dance of life that continues unbroken through all the seasons, all the years, all the ages. Deep within the walls of the old temple, hidden away from the bustle of the village, there stands a ginkgo tree. It is a massive tree, its trunk so wide that 3 people linking arms could barely encircle it, its branches reaching high into the sky, spreading out like a giant umbrella. Its leaves are a vibrant green in the spring and summer, turning a brilliant gold in the autumn, before falling to the ground in a shower of sunlight. The monks who live in the temple call it the wise one. They say it has stood there for over 1,000 years, watching over the temple, the village, the valley. It has seen empires rise and fall, wars come and go, generations of monks and villagers live and die. It has weathered storms, droughts, fires, and yet there it stands, tall and strong, a testament to the power of patience, resilience, and time. Each morning, as the first light of dawn filters through the temple gates, a young monk named Jun walks to the ginkgo tree. He is 20, with a shaven head and an eager look in his eyes, full of the idealism and energy of youth. He has been at the temple for only a year, sent there by his parents to learn discipline, wisdom, and peace. But Jun is restless. He misses his old life, the excitement of the city, the company of his friends. He finds the temple's quiet tedious, the monks' slow pace frustrating, the endless meditation and prayer boring. Today, as he stands before the ginkgo tree, he kicks at a fallen leaf, his frustration boiling over. What's the point? He mutters to himself. What's the point of standing here, day after day, doing nothing? This tree is old, useless. It doesn't do anything. It just sits here. A voice behind him makes him jump. Ah, but is that true, young Jun? It says. Jun turns to see the temples. Abbot, an old man with a long white beard and eyes that seem to see everything. The abbot has lived at the temple for over 60 years and is said to be over 90 years old. His steps are slow, his back bent, but there is a wisdom in his gaze that commands respect. I'm sorry, Abbot, Jun says, bowing his head. I didn't mean to speak disrespectfully. The abbot smiles, a warm, gentle smile. No need to apologize, he says. Questions are good. They are the beginning of wisdom. But let us not dismiss the wise one so quickly. Come, sit with me. Let us learn from it. They sit down beneath the ginkgo tree, their backs resting against its massive trunk. The bark is rough beneath Chun's hands, but there is a warmth to it, a sense of life, as if the tree is breathing, slowly and steadily. Tell me, Jun, the abbot says, what do you see when you look at this tree? Jun looks up at the branches, the leaves, the sky beyond. I see an old tree, he says. A very old tree. It's big, but it's just a tree. It doesn't move, doesn't think, doesn't do anything. The abbot nods. And when you were a child, what did you see when you looked at a tree? Jun thinks for a moment. I saw a place to climb, he says, smiling at the memory. A place to hide, something to play with. And now? The abbot asks. Now, Jun says, I see something that gets in the way, something that's just there. The abbot chuckles. You are like many young people, Jun. You see only the surface. You see the tree's age, its stillness, and you think it is useless. But look deeper. Look beyond the surface. He points to the ground beneath the tree, where the soil is rich and dark, teeming with life. This soil is fertile because of the ginkgo, he says. Its leaves fall each year, decomposing, adding nutrients to the earth. The animals that live in the temple grounds, squirrels, birds, insects, depend on it for food and shelter. The tree's roots hold the soil in place, preventing erosion. It provides shade from the sun, shelter from the rain. It is not useless. Jun, it is a vital part of this ecosystem, this temple, this life. The night is soft around you now, like a blanket woven from starlight and silence. The stories have unfolded, one by one, like petals opening in the moonlight, each one a whisper, a gentle reminder, a quiet truth. You can almost feel the 100-year. Pine beneath your fingertips, its rough bark telling tales of storms and sunshine. The stonecutter's chisel hums in your ears, slow and steady, shaping more than marble. The temple bell resonates in your chest, deep and warm, a rhythm as old as breath. The river flows through your thoughts, smooth and patient, carving canyons not of stone, but of understanding. The garden rests, seeds sleeping in the soil, waiting for their season, just as we all wait and grow and bloom in our own time. The gukin strings vibrate softly, a melody that outlasts youth, outlasts speed, outlasts the hurry of the world. The wandering monk's steps echo in your bones, slow and sure, each one a prayer of gratitude. The potter's kiln glows gently, transforming clay into something eternal, just as time transforms us. The bamboo sways in a breeze, only it can feel, its shadow dancing, but its essence unshaken. The ginkgo tree breathes deeply, its roots tangled. With centuries of stories, its branches reaching for a sky that will always welcome them. These are not just stories. They are mirrors. They show us that age is not a shadow, but a light softer, warmer, deeper than the bright flash of youth. It is the river, not the rapids. It is the root, not the branch. It is the song that has been sung long enough to hold all the world's quiet joys. You are part of this now. The stories, the lessons, the peace they live in you as they live. In the pine, the river, the ginkgo. Time is not running out. It is unfolding gently, beautifully, just for you. Rest now. Let your breath slow, like the bell's echo fading into the valley. Let your thoughts soften, like the bamboo's shadow. At moonrise, you are here, you are alive, you are growing deeply, steadily, perfectly. Good night.